Hi, Neil from EA Media. Well, one of the things that I get asked a lot is how to include security in the Agile methodology. I'll be clear here. I'm not a big fan of the Agile methodology. I've found that people use Agile as an excuse not to do things properly. But they do have a question, and the purpose of that question isn't about security in Agile, but how to do projects quicker, how to do projects with security quicker. So I want to address that with this video. So a couple things before I start. I have a few things that I believe. First off, I believe for a project to be successful, you have to collect requirements properly. Okay, you have to do it right. If you don't do it right, if you do a slipshod job, it'll cascade through the project, and by the end of the project, your solution will not meet the needs of your company and your stakeholders. I believe if I was to look at Waterfall versus Agile, I prefer Waterfall for the very simple reason I believe Waterfall provides a set of checks and balances. There's an old saying in business that if it's important, you should be able to measure it. Well, project delivery is important. So having gates through your project allow you to measure how the project is going. So that's the reason why I prefer Waterfall over Agile. But I also believe, this is my third point, that Waterfall adds a lot of bureaucracy. And the Agile methodology is meant to get rid of that bureaucracy. It takes the old view of do things well instead of perfectly. Or I think the saying is don't let perfect get in the way of good. So when you talk about Waterfall, and now this is important in order to understand how to do projects faster and include security in projects faster, you have to understand what's the core purpose of a project. The core purpose of a project is to deliver. It's not to do bureaucracy. Problem is that too many times projects spend more time on secondary activities than on the primary activity of delivering. And that's what slows things down. When I created my reference enterprise architecture, I realized that there are, in essence, 3 layers for any activity in an organization. There's the core activity, which is core to the business. There's a secondary activity, a support activity that supports the core activity. But, and this is what most people don't realize, there's a third activity. That's the support services that support the other support services. And people forget that that is a tertiary activity. It's not nearly as important as the support of the core activity. So, for example, if you have a project and the project is meant to deliver a solution, that's the core activity, delivering that solution. A support service for that solution would be setting up a server, getting network connectivity, implementing a application. From a security point of view, it might be creating roles or accounts. A secondary service, a service that supports those other supporting services, would be providing documentation to that organization, to that group. Explaining to that group what the best way of doing things in that group would be. That's a secondary service. That's a supporting service. So it's important to differentiate what is a core activity, part of the project, what is a secondary, what is a supporting service that supports the core activity, and what's a secondary service that supports the supporting service. So now you're starting to get layers. For security people, it's really the same sort of thing. You have to understand that a project is meant to deliver. So for a security organization, you have to understand what is core to delivering the project versus what is a secondary service meant to support the supporting service. All of these activities should be streamlined as much as possible, should be as efficient as possible. So, for example, security people need to talk about risk for a project. You talk about the risk for a project before the project starts. You're using risk to communicate to the business what the pros and cons are for doing a project. Once a business makes the decision to do a project, then your job is now to support that activity, the project activity. So streamline and standardize your approach as much as possible. Now, security is interesting because it's one of those areas that has something in all three areas. First, you can have security projects meant to implement a security technology. So now you're the core activity, and that's around, those are the business decisions to do something from a security point of view. The second layer, that supporting service, security also sits there. So, for example, your identity and access management group, setting up roles and accounts, that is a supporting service. Security also has a tertiary or a supporting service for those other supporting services, and that's the governance activities. That's doing the audit. That's for doing the reviews, that sort of thing. That's not meant to support the delivery. That's meant to support the other supporting services. So how do you make a project go faster from a security point of view? Two things to remember. One, reduce your bureaucracy and focus on the core activity. And two, recognize when you're doing primary support, example, creating accounts, versus doing secondary activities. It's things like doing an audit or doing project reviews, that sort of thing. Those are not core to supporting a project in delivery. They're meant for more governance activities. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like this video, take a look at some of the others we have on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you can help grow the EA Media community. I'd also like to ask a request of you. Take a look at the environment that I'm providing these videos in. Provide your feedback on your thoughts on ways to improve. That way I can make sure that these videos get better. This is all part of improving the way we deliver videos and information to you. Coming soon, and I've been saying this, will be the premium information, the premium videos, the interviews, that sort of thing. These editorial videos are all about getting everything clean, getting everything right, so that when we do provide your premium content, it's to the best capability we can provide. Anyway, I'm Neil Rarup with EA Media, and I hope that helps.